for this today. I attended one session earlier, and I really enjoyed myself, and so I'm really honored to have been asked by you to speak in the beginning of this session. So today, as everyone is well aware, and we've already mentioned it, is a somber day, and it's a look back at the events of September 11th, 2001. On this day, 19 men hijacked 4 fuel-loaded U.S. commercial airplanes bound for West Coast destinations. And a total of 2,977 people were killed in New York, in Washington, and outside of a town in Pennsylvania. That is an enormous number of people, and first responders that were on the site continue to perish even today. Today's topic is where were you then and where are you now? It's something that everyone talks about, the day of 9/11. Where were you? Everyone remembers what they were doing at that point in time. I was a young architect working for a company in Livingston, New Jersey. My boss at the time, he used to work for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. He is responsible for 11 years out of my 20 working with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. That day, when the planes hit the building, we were shocked that it was something that it was a terrorist attack. It's a hard day for me. I did lose 2 friends from Cantor Fitzgerald that day. When we first learned that the internet was down, news started coming in, we thought it was a Cessna or something smaller that had crashed into the buildings. But 8:30 in the morning, when the World Trade Center came to life every morning, as it did prior, people heading into work and going about their day had no idea that the events that will take place in a series of 2 hours will change the course of history and the way that we know current air travel and how we interact with one another forever. After the towers had fallen, after the first one fell, and we learned that this was the case, my boss told myself and a couple of others to leave, to go home right away. I hopped in my car and I started driving towards Montclair, where I was living at the time, Montclair, New Jersey. From Livingston, there's a vantage point called Eagle Rock Reservation in West Orange, New Jersey. And I got to a traffic light and noticed that people had come out of their homes. There were people just stopped, their jaws were to the floor, and they were looking towards the skyline. And so I got out of my car and I walked towards what's now a 9/11 memorial at Eagle Rock Reservation. And there was a semblance of a plume of smoke that was still there. Overlooking the cliff, and then the town, and then the water and the skyline, all of a sudden I noticed that there was no first building, and then all of a sudden there was a plume of smoke and the second one fell. It was the timing of it was just an amazing and shocking thing to witness. And all I could think of was what are the people doing there? The World Trade Center had its own, and still does has its own zip code. So you can imagine the kinds of events that took place inside and outside of that building during this time. That's where I was then. A series of events had taken place between then and now. As soon as I left, and you know, that scene and news started coming in that it was a terrorist attack, I personally dealt with a few things. Stopped at a red light. Someone rolled their window down. I thought they were asking for directions, but I was told to go back to my country. Um, you know, things like that had happened before, but not with the frequency that it started once again. Fast forward to 2003, I ended up becoming one of the inspectors on the World Trade Center site. When I left, my boss, who had worked for the Port Authority, he couldn't pay me anymore. He said, you know, look, I can't pay you more than $10 an hour. So I know that you're not going to be able to start a life with this. So I know the chief architect over at the Port Authority. You should apply for a job there and see what happens. So I ended up getting a job there, and I got to work on the World Trade Center. So my first job was to help extract some elevators and one elevator and two escalators from the site itself. We called it the Eastern Bathtub at the time. We had come up with some nomenclature for the site, and you know, to help orient ourselves, because when you walked onto the site, there was nothing that it was recognizable. Construction workers and police had made for entry into the site, and you just had to orient yourself based on a map in your hand and a flashlight. There were no lights that were installed down in the site, and you know, that was really it. We were all wearing HEPA filtered masks, and some people were not, unfortunately. And going down into the site, I saw people's effects. I saw pieces of paper. I saw wallets. OEM was there to collect all the things. We were told to not go in certain areas because there were people and remains in some areas. Still 2 years after the fact. So everything was taken, collected, sorted, and taken to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where the Battery Park City Ferry Terminal was being constructed, because the one that was there was destroyed. So fast forward another few months, and I had become an inspector for the site. I'd worked on some areas of the site, and we started to see some semblance of a working foundation for a temporary path station. I walk onto the site, and there are two construction workers there. I'm wearing a hard hat. I've got my my vest on that identifies me as a Port Authority official. I've got my clipboard, my pen, and I'm ready to get back to the site. Something that meant a lot to me, something I spoke about quite frequently with friends and family. And I was told to turn away and not even look at the site. What happened? I walked onto the site. Two construction workers approached me and asked me what I was doing there. And I said I was there for inspection. I was interrupted and told to turn around and walk away and don't even look at the site. I don't belong there. I don't deserve to be there. Little did those two construction workers realize I was the person that they were supposed to meet with to sign off on a few items that, you know, punch list items that needed to get closed out. So needless to say, I went and got Port Authority police, and those two gentlemen were escorted off of the site. While one may see that as a victory, it stayed with me because I realized that, you know, this was something that was near and dear to people. The site was a graveyard. It still is. It's a place. It's a sacred place. which is why there was so much controversy and so many delays behind construction. And you know, the backlash on people that look like myself reminded me of Pearl Harbor. It reminded me of what happened as far as the Japanese internment camps, which, you know, were established during World War II by Roosevelt through his Executive Order 9066. And for 3 years, it was the policy of the U.S. government that people of Japanese descent would be interred in isolated camps. And that really steadied the course and dictated the lives of so many people, Americans, Japanese Americans, that had nothing to do with the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Of course, I was born in Montclair, New Jersey. I'm apple pie. My son here was born, you know, in New Brunswick, New Jersey. We look a certain way, but we are what America is supposed to be. You know, we are of Indian descent, but you know, we have, you know, my parents have been here for almost 50 years, and it really, the where were you then really speaks to the where am I now. It opened my eyes to walking in other people's shoes. How did I feel when certain things had happened to me based on past events? I mourn the loss of all 2000. Our sense of purpose is gone now. So, you know, that's it for me. I'm gonna kick the bucket, and it's funny, you know, funny to them. And then there are those who I've spoken to in later who are retired, and they found something else to do, and there's purpose. Um, our our general purpose is to look after one another, and to continue to do so into the future. The events of this day back in 2001 changed lives forever, and hopefully we can see a silver lining in lessons that are learned from events such as those. A senseless act and acts that changed lives, that destroyed families, much like you know, these days we're starting to see a divide, a racial divide that's been there for so long, but now we see it in a different way. It's called something different, but it's the same thing. And it's important for us to remember that it is not something that that should be taken lightly. And you know, we don't want um, another 9/11, let's say, because it is something that guys, can you? Sorry, guys. You know, we want to make sure that that we're looking out for one another, and we don't allow something like this to happen again. So really, that's all that I have for today. I hope that my story, my experiences are something that's relatable, and just wish everyone well.
Thank you so much, Alok. Thank you for sharing your experience.